the smoke machine. Are you meant to be Carrie? Yeah, what a great costume. Hi, everyone.
Hello again, Elijah.
Hello again. Hello. Here we find ourselves in this lovely stage.
Yes. How was your evening in Ghent yesterday?
It was great. Yeah, I had a lovely evening.
What did you try from Belgian food or drinks?
I didn't have anything super Belgian last night.
Why not?
I don't know. I had a burger and fries and a cocktail.
No beers?
I didn't have any beers. Listen, I like beer, but I find beer a little heavy, so I don't drink it like I used to. I used to drink way more beer. It sounds like I was drinking a lot of beer. But when I would drink, I used to drink beer kind of more regularly, and I don't now, funnily enough. But I love Belgian beers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but is Saison from here?
I think so, yes.
I love a Saison.
Okay.
I love a sour, I love a Saison.
It's about 400 different Belgian beers.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
And there's one place in Ghent you should try. There's a typical beer, Kwak.
Okay.
And when you order it, you need to give
a knowing.
Yeah, but never mind. You need to give a shoe. They will put it in a basket and put it on top because the glass is so expensive. People steal it otherwise. So
okay.
You should try it tonight.
Good.
Now, we played this game yesterday and
yes.
you were quite impressive because the famous drinking game of name 5 famous Belgians.
Yes.
You nailed it yesterday. Name 7 famous Belgians.
I can't name 7. What did I say? I said yesterday, Audrey Hepburn, Matisse.
Magritte.
Oh, sorry, Magritte, not Matisse. Jesus, different artist. Magritte, Django Reinhardt, and Plastic Bertrand.
How do you know Plastic Bertrand?
Oh man, what's the famous song?
Ça plane pour moi.
Ça plane pour moi, yeah, it's the best. I mean, everybody knows that song.
All right.
That's an international hit.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, he didn't sing it.
What?
Yeah, there was a whole trial and somebody else, Lou de Reyke, who actually sang it, and then he claimed that, I mean, it's just his face. You know, like Milli Vanilli.
So it was like the first Milli Vanilli?
Yes.
For real?
Yes. Plastic Bertrand never sang it.
Crazy, yes.
You're from Iowa?
Originally, yes.
Yes. Where are you living now?
Los Angeles.
Okay. 3 most famous people from Los Angeles to you.
There's so many famous people from LA. 3 famous people from Los Angeles. Trying to go in a direction that is not common. I mean, obviously, Charlie Chaplin. Although I don't know that he was born in... The thing about Los Angeles is that it's a real transient place. There's not that many people, I mean, there's loads of people from LA, but more people come to LA to pursue their career or to start a life, so a lot of transplants. Trying to think, does anybody know who Roy Choi is? He's a chef. He's from LA. Kobe Bryant, I think, is from Los Angeles. Dr. Dre is from LA. Kendrick Lamar. There's a lot of amazing hip-hop artists from Los Angeles. We have an incredible tradition of hip-hop in our fair city.
All right, you're an actor.
Yeah.
Yesterday we talked about the perks of being an actor. What would be the most unexpected thing about being an actor we non-actors wouldn't realize? You know, the thing that as your acting career or part of your acting career, we're like, nobody thinks we have to do this or not do this.
I don't think anybody, you know, I think what we do seems from outside to be, I don't know, glamorous or something. But it's funny, the work that we do isn't really on a film set or doing that work, because to us that isn't work, that's why we do this. It's the joy of what we get to do is to make movies and be a part of a creative process. But the work is promoting films. Like that is where, and it's not that I don't necessarily like it, because a great promotion can bring a cast back together again. Like Lord of the Rings, for instance. You know, for 3 years, we would sort of do almost a month-long tour promoting each individual film. And that brought us all back together again, and we would fly on planes together and be at premieres and sort of experience this thing together, which was really wonderful. But it is, that part of what we do is a lot of work. It's where we feel like, okay, this is the job, you know. You don't sign up to be an actor to go on a press tour. It's, you know.
And answering the same question.
And that's the thing, is you literally sit in a room, and, you know, I'm sure many of you have probably seen this Will You Wear Wigs interview. It's become quite famous. The funny thing about that is that particular interview was during what is called a press junket. So a press junket is typically 2 days or a day where you're sat in a room and journalists, so you've got cameras all set up and the room just rotates with different journalists asking, you know, over the course of like 3 to 5 minutes, a series of questions that tend to be the same question over and over again. So that particular interview, I happened to be in New York, and it was done via satellite. So the cast was in Berlin. It was for the Two Towers press junket, and I couldn't be there because I was in New York hosting Saturday Night Live. And so, sort of in exchange for me not being able to be in Berlin, they were like, okay, but can you do the day of press interviews via satellite? So I was in a room in a studio in New York City over the course of an evening, and I couldn't see the journalists. I could only hear them in my ears. I was looking at like a piece of paper with a smiley face on it for whoever I was supposed to be talking to, and then these various sort of foreign accented interviewers would sort of pop into my ear and ask me the same questions over and over again. So when this Hans Jensen starts asking questions, it didn't seem that strange at first. It was, you know, kind of an eccentric voice, and then it got weirder and weirder. But that was a very good example of what a press junket is. It's just sitting in a room and getting fed the same questions, unless you're Hans Jensen and you start asking about wigs and did you know that, you know, the dolphin died in a car accident.
How many times do you have to watch your own movies when you're on a press junket or a promotional tour, you know, premieres? Do you watch them, or do you just leave as soon as they start? Great question.
I always will watch probably unless we have just seen the film prior to the premiere. So sometimes there will be a special sort of cast and crew screening that will be somewhat close to when the premiere is. And generally, if that happens, you may opt out of sitting through the film. But I generally will watch at least the first. If there's more than one premiere, watching the first one just to sort of experience it with an audience. And you know, a premiere often tends to be a lot of the people who worked on the film as well. So it's lovely to sort of take part in that celebration together. But on Rings, we would normally have about 3 different screenings for each film. And so by the second one, you'd probably just sit it out. Do generally like an intro, and then there would be kind of a Q&A after. But you know, the cast would just go out for dinner or something.
And when you watch yourself on the screen, do you go like, damn, I'm good, or like, oh my god, I should have done this differently, or whatever?
I don't feel awkward about watching myself. I think I get more genuinely invested in the entirety of the film than sort of narrowing in on what I've done. So I try and focus on everything else, which is it comes relatively easy to me. I'm able to sort of compartmentalize it a little bit. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, it's natural to look at your own work and sort of wonder if it sort of turned out the way you wanted it to. But I'm able to sort of look past it and try and enjoy the whole thing. With Lord of the Rings, you know, the beauty of that particular film is that after Fellowship, it really does split into a variety of narratives where, you know, I wasn't there for a lot of those particular set pieces. So it was kind of lovely, the subsequent films, because there's a lot that I got to see for the first time, you know, as a viewer. But I love seeing a movie come together. It's, you know, the work that everybody is doing is in service of the whole piece. That's why we're all there. And so it's a real joy to see something come together for the first time. It's awesome.
And imagine, if you would be in a hotel room and you're like shifting through the channels and all of a sudden, Fellowship of the Ring, would you go like, I'll watch it, or?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely done that, where I've flipped through the channels and Lord of the Rings or something has been on, and I've sort of sat with it for a bit, and then ultimately sort of pass it by.
Talking about Lord of the Rings, you do have a tattoo, right?
I do, yeah.
Still have it?
I do, yeah. It's not faded.
I won't ask you to show it, but I believe John Rhys Davies was the only one who didn't get it.
He's the only. Yes, his stunt double got it. So there is a Gimli representation. He just took a stance that he doesn't want to get his body tattooed, which is absolutely fine, fair enough. Yeah.
And do you consider the other cast members of Lord of the Rings like family, friends? Because you were like a year and a half together almost every day, living an extraordinary adventure. It's a special bond.
No, it totally is. I mean, it transcends friendship. We're more like family. I mean, you spend. I mean, none of us had ever worked on anything that was that all-encompassing. That was really a job that was stretched over 4 years, and so, most of us were away from our homes and our families for certainly 16 months of that time. So we became each other's family whilst making it, and bonded over that experience. So yeah, I mean, we are like family, and in that way too, where you may not see each other for a long time, and then when you do, it's as if no time has passed,
Yeah, because you share something
that nobody else knows. Yeah, exactly.
Talking about sharing things, if you could host your dream dinner with 3 people, alive or dead, who would you invite to that dinner?
Dream dinner. Stanley Kubrick. Maybe Ray Bradbury. It's an eclectic group. And I don't know. Ray Bradbury, Stanley Kubrick. Who would round that out and make it interesting? Maybe Lauren Bacall.
Right.
Be interesting.
Or Audrey Hepburn to put in Belgium.
Audrey Hepburn, yes. I've always been in love with Audrey Hepburn.
Yes, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Imagine you could swap for 1 week your life with the life of another celebrity. Who would you choose? James McAvoy was in that seat, chose Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Taylor Swift, that's amazing. You know what? It would. I'm going to say Prince. I grew up loving Prince. I grew up with his music. I have an older brother. My brother's 7 years older than me. So he really got me into it because he was listening to everything as it was happening, and I was a little bit behind, ultimately caught up. Saw Prince many times before he passed, and I just think, that was an artist that is just untouchable in terms of his musical ability, songwriting, the length of his career, just total his ability to perform, just amazing. So yeah, to spend a week with retaining his musical ability, of course, would be pretty amazing.
2 questions before we start taking questions from the crowd. If you were to interview yourself, what question would you ask yourself?
I don't know. I don't know if well, because inherently I am myself, I don't know that there's anything I need to know.
Slightly easier variation is if you were to tell something to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
I know exactly what I would tell myself. buy a fucking house in New Zealand, dude. So it's so funny. This is actually a big, I don't really have many regrets in my life. I don't really believe in regrets. One of the few that I have is that I didn't, so when we were wrapping up Lord of the Rings, I think all of us obviously felt a real strong connection to that country. It's still a place that is deeply meaningful to me, and a part of my heart will always reside there. And as we were wrapping up production, I thought, oh, maybe I should go through the process of like filling out papers for residency. You know, listen, the PM, Helen Clark, was very, you know, amenable to us. The films brought in a hell of a lot of revenue and really put New Zealand on the map from a sort of tourism standpoint. And so it was prime time to start that process and probably successfully achieve residency and then potentially maybe even citizenship over time, because I was going to be coming back. And also, the New Zealand dollar was pretty low, so and the US dollar was really strong. So at the time, the US dollar was like double the Kiwi dollar. And so, you know, a house that was like $1 million Kiwi dollars was like 500,000. It was fucking cheap. It's very expensive now. It's so expensive to buy a house in New Zealand. And I just, yeah, and all of us had these aspirations for eventually getting a place there and kind of holding on to, you know, and like carving out a space and a reason to continue to visit beyond our friendships. And we just didn't, I never did it. I didn't fill out the papers. I stupidly let that go. And, you know, I think I missed the golden opportunity to get something when it was so easy to get something, you know.
Then again, never cry over spilled milk, so it's...
Yeah, come on.
So before we start taking questions, Elijah, I've been doing this for like a long time, and I've had many weird requests, and I've seen many weird things from guests, but you're the first one I ever saw planking for 5 minutes. Elijah would just plank for 5 full minutes in the green room.
Yeah.
And you said you were really good at push-ups. So I have to ask you, would you be willing to do us 10 push-ups on stage? Give it up for Elijah and his 10 push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Your time to shine. There's 2 microphones, one on the left, one on the right. A few ground rules. English only, 1 question per person. Please articulate, speak in the microphone. Don't ask for free hugs, free kisses, free autographs, nor what Elijah thinks about the end of Game of Thrones. Take it away.
As an actor on Lord of the Rings, what was the most difficult scene for you to film, like emotionally?
I would say, I mean, it's got to be side of Mount Doom as Frodo's sort of falling apart and can no longer sort of almost see reality for what it is anymore. And I remember, you know, that sequence between Frodo and Sam, as Sam is, you know, leading up to, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. Just so emotional. I just remember that feeling, that sense of responsibility to those moments and delivering emotionally the sort of impact of that. So yeah, I would say that that entire sequence was the most challenging.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi, in 2016 you played Todd in Dirk Gently's and that's like almost 10 years ago now. So I'm wondering how you like reflect on the show and the cancellation. And
I can't believe that's been 10 years, that's crazy. Oh man, we had so much fun making that show. I'll never forget reading the first script for the first time and how absolutely absurd and wild it was, and how it sort of almost willfully made it complicated to understand what the fuck was going on. Yeah, we had a blast, and there was a plan for a third season, and Max had kind of laid out that the kind of concept for the show is ultimately that it was an anthology show with the same characters, but the genre changed every season. So there was definitely a sort of interest in keeping it going for as long as possible, and I feel like from a production standpoint, we really caught our stride in the second season. It was, it wasn't the easiest thing to kind of put together, but it really felt like we found our groove. So it was a shame not to be able to come back to do a third. We all had fun working together. It was an amazing cast. And yeah, it was super fun to play that character, Todd, and opposite Dirk. And Sam Barnett's amazing. And so much of my job was just reacting to the fucking insanity of what the hell was going on. The funny thing to think about too is that there was almost never a day where we were shooting something normal. Everything was absurd and insane. So it was just a blast. It was really fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So you already talked about how your time in the Lord of the Rings films with the Fellowship was being like family. Did your time on the sets change the way you value friendship?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, one has to sort of imagine, like, it was totally unprecedented what we were about to go do. And I'll never forget meeting Sean Astin, for instance, for the first time. Sean and I met in a lobby of a hotel in Los Angeles. I was either just coming from having a wig fitting or just going to having my wig fit. But we passed each other in the lobby and immediately embraced. I'd never met him before, but I knew who he was, obviously. And we hugged each other, and there was this sense of like, we're about to go on this adventure together. And that's really what it was, it was this thing where we were all completely isolated from our lives, and New Zealand and each other became our lives as we were on this kind of journey together. That was sort of not unlike what the characters were going through, It was an adventure. And that's incredibly bonding, You feel like you were among the few people embarking on this thing that feels very special. And despite the fact that it was like, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 people ultimately employed in the making of the film, it felt very small and intimate. It didn't feel, and yeah, of course the scale of like looking out in giant battle sequences and there's hundreds of extras, we had that, for sure. But it also just felt homegrown, and it felt handmade, and in a way that was very connective. That didn't feel like a giant apparatus, It felt like this small thing. And that very much bonds you to each other and to the crew as well. So yeah, and the four hobbits, listen, we were of a similar age, so the four of us were like pretty inseparable, and we were still really close. Yeah.
Hi, I was going to ask something about Dirk Gently, but you answered my question.
Oh shit.
So I'll just ask if there's anything else by Douglas Adams you'd like to work with in a project.
It's funny, I'm not that familiar with his work as an author to be able to like pull something up. But I find his work to be incredible and bizarre and funny and absurd, and so I don't know, I would certainly be open to working with Douglas Adams' material again, for sure. But there isn't, I don't know his work well enough to be able to pull something out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Hi.
Hello.
I love to travel all around the world, so I was wondering, because you're an actor, you have traveled all around, what's your favorite place that you visited and filmed in?
I mean, favorite place I've filmed in is probably New Zealand. Bit of an obvious answer, I suppose, but I mean, favorite places that I've traveled to. lots of favorite places. I really love Scandinavia. I love Sweden and Norway and Denmark. Oh, and Ghent. Yeah, I love Ghent. What else? I love Turkey. I've spent a bit of time in Turkey. I think Istanbul is really special. Gosh. I don't know. I think it's one of my favorite aspects of being alive is being able to travel and experience other cultures and architecture and food, and it's such a glorious thing. And as an actor, I do have that afforded to me a lot. I love it. I love it so much. And it's always fun to travel to new places. Like my family and I, my wife and kids and I just did a cross-country road trip, which is something I've always wanted to do. Covered like 18 states in 2 months. And some states I've never been to, which is so fun. And now I've been to almost all of the states. I think I'm only missing like 6 or 7 states, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Serena, if you don't know.
Yeah.
So, I met you for the first time in Forever Young.
Uh-huh.
C'est tout. And who is the actor you enjoyed working with? Not Astin, not Dominic, another actor. You understand? Because I speak French.
Like in general, across any, or in that film?
Just with you.
So, oh, in general, I see. Oh my God, I mean, it's been an embarrassment of riches, the various actors that I've got to work with over the years, that I'm unbelievably grateful to have had the opportunity. I mean...
Mel Gibson, no?
Yeah, worked with Mel Gibson, he was great. I mean, I'm drawing a blank right now. I mean, getting to work with Jim Carrey was really extraordinary. On Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Christopher Lee on Lord of the Rings was amazing. I mean, sort of legendary people like that. I don't know, it's hard for me to pick one person. Nicolas Cage, that was an unbelievable experience.
Excuse me, it's an actor who you played with. I speak French, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't understand your question.
Okay, you understand?
Yeah, no, but you actually played with Nicolas Cage, so he is the one you admire. I mean, she is asking who is the one actor you're most admirative of, so it would be Nicolas Cage. I mean, you enjoyed playing with Nicolas Cage, you enjoyed playing with Mel Gibson, enjoyed playing with...
I feel like I've answered the question.
Yes, I think so too. So we'll...
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Go ahead.
Hi, Elijah. If you could relive one moment on the set of Lord of the Rings, which moment would it be?
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh. One moment. I don't know. I don't know. It would probably be with the 4 hobbits, something with the 4 of us. Because we always had fun together. Honestly, it's probably some downtime. You know, like, what stands out in my mind is, I mean, there's a million memories, so I could pull from many different things, but we were waiting for good weather to fly in helicopters up to the top of a mountain to film the Fellowship walking through the snow and Frodo dropping the ring in the snow and Boromir having a look at it. And we were waiting for good weather, so we were there on a Friday. Oh, not good weather today. We're down on a Saturday. Nope, weather's not good enough today. Sunday, oh, we're gonna work on Sunday, all right. And literally, I think it was on the Sunday or the Monday that we ended up going up. But in the meantime, we just sort of sat around and played games. And I think it was around that time that Billy and Dom tricked me into believing in a game called Tig. It doesn't exist, but they made up the rules to it, and I really tried to follow. We would also play with paper cups and keep a cup in the air. But it was things like that, of just like sitting around and, you know, entertaining ourselves with nonsense. those are fond memories I have of just like sort of the quiet moments in between, you know?
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, it's an honor to be in your presence. Second of all, which character would you have liked to play besides from a Hobbit in Lord of the Rings?
It's really hard to imagine because I feel like everyone is so locked to their performance, and I can't imagine those characters not being portrayed by those individuals. But if you were to sort of ask me as like a 15-year-old, having only at that point read The Hobbit, I would have probably said Gollum, only because the Riddles in the Dark chapter was my favorite. And I loved that character. I was so intrigued by that character. I found him mysterious, and so yeah, maybe Gollum. But that is like, I can't separate what Andy Serkis did. His performance is so extraordinary. He has, in my opinion, like ownership over that character. You know?
True. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I had a question.
Yes.
So you will play a Hobbit. I'll say for now, I forgot the name for it. What was it like to play Frodo in the fantasy setting for? Yeah, what was it like?
What was it like? It's funny, you know. There was a build-up to the making, right? We had about 2 months of preparation before we started shooting. We started shooting in October of 1999, but we had a good couple months lead up, rehearsals, dialect coaching, script work, some actual like camera test rehearsals. And you know, building up to that, there's this sense of responsibility that is like, I have to bring this beloved literary character to life. And the pressure of that, and feeling that pressure. But at a certain point, and in some ways relatively quickly, because you just get into the work, you're in the weeds of it, I just sort of let go of the outside feeling of pressure or, I guess, the weight of that responsibility, and just got into feeling out who this person was and found it and let that lead. So how did it feel? It felt awesome, because you put the feet on and you're wearing the costume and you feel like a hobbit and you look like a hobbit, and the wig and all of that, which does so much of the work, from our ears to our hair. And then, to further extrapolate on what you're saying as well, this idea of like being in Bag End was unbelievable. Because you would look around the set and it was so all-encompassing and real that you could kind of disappear into that world. We were really fortunate making these films because most of what we were experiencing was happening in front of us. I mean, certainly there was no cave troll and the Balrog wasn't real, right? But like, those sets we didn't have to rely on as much imagination as you would think. We were surrounded by unbelievable locations and sets that made that world come to life. So the fun of it, aside from the playing of the characters, was feeling like we were in Middle Earth and that world was come to life in front of us. It was awesome.
Elijah, we are already over schedule, so we have time for 2 more questions only. So.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
Tying back into the question of, do you watch your performance in movies you have starred in? Have you ever been curious as to what you sound like in another language when dubbed?
I've heard it a couple times.
Really?
Yeah. I've met my Italian dubber, so I've heard what that sounds like and what his work is. I feel like I've heard the Spanish dubbing as well. Yeah, but I've never been compelled. Like, I've never turned on the audio track on a DVD or Blu-ray to see. That's funny, I've heard it because I've met those individuals and sort of, by virtue of that, been exposed to it. But yeah, weirdly, I didn't have a curiosity about it. It's funny.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And very final question.
Oh, here it is, sir. And the winner is.
Yes. Hello, you are forever young, so are you ready to destroy the ring in a model? And if you're not, can you making a movie, not acting, just realizing a movie with other actors?
That part I didn't understand. So
you want to directing?
Yes.
Do you want to direct a movie?
Oh yeah, I would love to. I would love to. It's funny. It's something I've wanted to do for ages, and I think I just love the process of making movies. At this point in my life, that is king. So I do love acting, and that's my way in, and it has been my experience. But I love producing films as well, and I would love to direct a film. And I just love the creative process and working together with a group of people to realize a vision. And I think, in a lot of ways, I feel like I've been going to film school for the last 30 some odd years of my life. So I would love to apply that in some way. It'd be fun.
And you have already destroyed the ring?
I have destroyed the ring. Yeah, I'm not keeping it hidden.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's all we have time for. Give it up for Elijah!
Thank you so much.
Yeah.